Now, Stephen, thanks for taking us through everything, through the full diagnosis and how you were able to let people know. And now, we want to dive into the treatment of it. I know you had talked about getting Fludara and Rituxan. Sort of the standard of care for a long time had been FCR. You didn't have the C, you did have the chemo, though. Even though we're shifting away, we find that a lot of places are shifting away from chemo now. Can you describe a little bit about the experience? You had said you did 4 cycles and it would be 1 week on, 3 weeks off, and 5 days basically in a row, right, of the
Right.
chemo. So how was that experience, and any guidance for other people who are going through chemo infusions?
Yeah. So what I learned was it's a very cyclical process, right? And it builds a cumulative effect on your body. I remember the first couple of days of treatment walking away thinking, this ain't nothing, you know? And in fact, I felt so good early on in the first couple of days of each cycle that I would run home from my chemo treatments. And I did it for a number of reasons. It made me feel good. It made me feel physically good, mentally good. And I thought it kind of showed my loved ones that I must be okay if I'm still doing the things that I love to do. But as the week wore on and the toxins, accumulated in my body, by the end of by that Thursday, Friday, I was pretty beat up. But all it took was one cycle to realize, okay, so Monday, Tuesday, yeah, Wednesday's kind of a scratch day. Thursday, Friday, I'm just write me off. The weekend's not great, but by Monday of the following week, I'm not bad. So once I was able to digest that, and I knew that that was probably to be expected, and I could predict that and plan on that. I was able to do that, and I didn't overthink the days I felt bad because I knew I was going to rebound, and I knew it was cyclical. And I also knew that they do such a great job of pre-treating you with a number of different cocktails, um, and supplements and things to help offset any things that you might be experiencing. And the chemo in the chemo suite, I think people have this image of a chemo suite being this dark, dungeness, cavernous dungeon of hell, and I had the exact opposite experience. It was upbeat. It was positive. The oncology nurses that I worked with were saints, and they did everything humanly possible to keep me, um, to keep me my spirits up, to keep me feeling good physically, to make sure I didn't need something to drink, to eat, and it made all the difference in the world. And I just had a pretty positive experience throughout the whole thing, for the
And
most part. I
yeah,
had my moments, but
of course, of course. I mean, it's a lot to physically put your body through. But it sounds like you really looked at all the silver linings possible. And this lasted for a few months, for 4 months. How did your doctor, by the way, explain to you the landscape of, okay, we're going to go through this, this chemo, and then did he already tell you about the 2 years of Rituxan maintenance therapy that was going to follow?
he
Did you
did.
have scans that were happening throughout?
He did. Yeah, I knew about that, and truthfully, that concept was a little daunting for me in the beginning. I mean, I could wrap my head around the initial 4 rounds of treatment. That seemed moderately tolerable for me to be able to comprehend. But then when I thought of 2 years of follow up every 6 months, getting 5 more doses of Rituxan, that that set me back a little bit, and that took some time to wrap my head around. But at the same time, I didn't need to think about it until 6 months after I was done that last round. So I didn't overthink it until it was time to go back in. And truthfully, by that time, I felt great again. I was 100% my own self, and I understood what the Rituxan was going to do and how I was going to respond, and how my body would cycle through it. So I became okay with it. You just have to be patient and just work through it, and you know you get there. You get through it.
It sounds like you really just sort of took it moment by moment too, and you didn't try and look too far ahead.
He
Um,
smiles on these some of these pictures, by the way. are not
Yeah.
anomalies. That is pretty much the approach I tried to take throughout any treatment whenever I was in the chemo suite. In fact, if the nurses didn't see me smiling or making a joke about something, if they saw a serious look on my face, they'd come over and they want to know what's wrong. So that was another indicator that Steve might be tanking because he's being serious, you know. So I tried to be as upbeat as I could throughout.
Yeah. It was a red flag, right? Nope, Sirius and Steve, they don't go together. We need to go check up on him. Well, that's great because you were able to get through 2 years of this Rituxan maintenance therapy. As you said, it was every 6 months for 2 years, so it was 4 times. And then at that point, what was that conversation with your oncologist? Did he tell you at that time, or had he told you, well, look, a lot of CLL patients are going to go through treatment and then will need treatment again in 5 years? How did he talk about that?
He didn't put a timeline on it, but he did say that this is going to buy us a whole lot of time. The If we're really lucky, it's going to buy us a whole lot of time, but it's not going to buy us forever. You know, it's a chronic condition. It's incurable. There's no known fix for it today. So at some point, we're going to have to revisit it. But the hope and the goal was, let's be as definitive as we can this with the initial sweep of therapy to really knock it way back down and off the radar as far as possible so that we don't have to have this conversation again in the too distant or in the too near future.